Hello everyone and welcome to BIWay channel. If you're finding us for the first time, hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with new videos from BIWay. In this new video, we see how to use data flow in Azure Data Factory to transform the data. So first, let's describe briefly data flow. Data flow provides a way to transform data at scale without any coding required. We can design a data transformation job in the data flow designer by constructing a series of transformations. We can add many sources followed by data transformation steps. Then we add a sink to land the results in the destination. For our example, we will see how to create a pipeline that copies and transforms data from an Azure Blob Storage source to an Azure SQL database sink using mapping data flow. So let's jump to the Azure portal and see how it works. We are in Azure Data Factory that we've created during the first video. To create a data flow, we select data flows actions of the data flows on the left pane, then select new data flow. In the properties, we can rename it. Before we start adding transformations, it is recommended to turn on the data flow debug in the top of the canvas, because this debug mode will allow for interactive testing of transformation logic against a live Spark cluster. It can take some time to warm up, about 5 to 7 minutes. In the meantime, let's see what is our data source and destination. We have a CSV file named product sales in a container source. This file contains some data about product categories, products, channel, date, and sales amount. So we want to add some transformation to this file before loading the data to a table in a SQL database. As you can see, we have already created this table, and if we run the command select star from table, we will see that it is empty for now. In the Azure Data Factory, we've also created the dataset for the blob storage in the database to save time. The blob dataset is pointing to the CSV file. We can preview the data. And the SQL dataset is referring to the created table. The data flow debug is still running, so I'll speed up the video. Now that the data flow debug is activated, let's add a source by clicking on the Add Source box. In the source settings, we will select the dataset. Let's rename the output stream. Next to the source node of the data flow canvas, if we click on the plus icon, we can see all the transformations available. Let's add a filter transformation. We can rename the output stream, and in the incoming stream we can see that it is the data source. To specify our filtering condition, we click on the expression box to open the expression builder. The data flow expression builder lets you interactively build expression to use in various transformations. Expressions can include built-in functions, columns from the input schema, and user-defined parameters. In our example, we want to keep only products of channel name equals store. We hit save and finish. Because the debug cluster has started, we can go to Data Preview tab of the filter transformation and click refresh to get a snapshot of the data. We use Data Preview to verify that the transformation is configured correctly. So now let's add a cast transformation. If you go to the Inspect tab, we can see that the date and sales amount are of type string, so we will change that. In the Cast Settings tab, we can select a column name and select the new type and optionally a format. We will set the type of the date column to date and add a new column to set the type of sales amount to float. Now that we've done changing the types, we can preview the data to see if there is no error. Nice, the type has changed. Next, we will add a select transformation. We want to rename columns and exclude some from the flow. In the select settings, we can rename simply the columns. For the channel name, we don't need it anymore, so we'll remove it from the mapping. We can see that now we only have 4 columns, and we can verify that in the data preview. The next transformation is the derived column. We'll use it to add a new column. In the settings, we give a name to our column. Then we open the expression builder to add the expression, which will be the current timestamp function, which will allow us to return the date time of the execution. And lastly, we add a sync transformation under destination to load the data into the table. In the sync tab, we select the dataset SQL dataset. In the settings, we can see that we have different update methods. We can change the table action. We can add pre-SQL script or post-SQL scripts. For example, in the pre-SQL scripts, we can add a truncate table expression, which will truncate the table each time the data flow runs. In the mapping tab, we have the option to do the mapping manually or select auto mapping. We can preview the data to see if everything is okay. Keep in mind that the data preview doesn't write data. So now that we've finished the data flow transformations, we're going to add it to a pipeline to run it. Let's create a new pipeline and rename it. Then in the activity pane, we drag and drop the data flow activity to the pipeline canvas. In the settings of the activity, we select the data flow created. Now we can trigger a debug run of the data flow pipeline. It will take a few seconds to complete. Nice, it succeeded. If we click on the eyeglasses icon to open the monitoring pane, we can see the number of rows and time spent in each transformation step. We can click also on a transformation to get detailed information about the columns and the partitioning of the data. So let's check our table and see if it contains the data. Let's run the query. Cool, as you can see, we have the data in the table. Now that we have tested the pipeline in debug mode, we can publish it and add a trigger to schedule its execution. So we're coming to the end of this video. If you have any questions, post them in the comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with new videos from BIWay. See you in the next video.